President Lee Jae-myung told the Chinese Premier Li Chang on Tuesday that he'll work on developing the restoration of Seoul-Beijing relations into an irreversible trend. The South Korean leader will conclude his China trip with one last stop in Shanghai. South Korea's benchmark KOSPI rose over 1.5% on Tuesday to close above the 4,500 mark for the first time ever, on the back of a jump in chips, brokerages, and shipbuilders. Deposed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro pleaded not guilty in a federal court on Monday to U.S. drug trafficking charges, saying he was kidnapped by the U.S. military. We begin in China tonight. President Lee Jae-myung is now in Shanghai, the final stop of his four-day state visit to China. For a wrap-up of his third day and a preview of what's next, we turn to our Blue House correspondent Song Yujin. Yujin.
Right, Dummy. So President Lee Jae-myung arrived here in Shanghai about 2 hours ago. It's currently raining, as you can see. Now, the president will begin his Shanghai visit by attending a dinner hosted by the Communist Party Secretary of Shanghai, Chen Jining, who is widely seen as a frontrunner in China's next leadership race. Now, earlier today, the president wrapped up his stay in Beijing by meeting with China's second and third highest-ranking officials, Premier Li Chang and Zhao Leji, who is the chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, that is China's top legislature. Now, Yi first met with Zhao, and the two agreed on the importance of building political trust between their governments and deepening friendly ties between the people of both countries as a foundation for stable bilateral relations. Now, President Yi even invited Chairman Zhao to visit South Korea at an early day to increase exchanges between the two countries' legislatures. Yi then met with Premier Lee, who he described as feeling like a close friend, noting that this was their third meeting following the first two that took place last year on the sidelines of the ASEAN and G20 summits.
양국이 시대의 변화에 발맞춰서 수평적이고 호혜적인 협력을 확대하고 한반도와 또 영내의 평화와 안정을 증진해 나가면서 실용과 상생의 길로 함께 나아갈 수 있기를 기대합니다.
Under the strategic guidance of our two leaders, China-South Korea relations are taking on a new dimension. We believe continued cooperation across various fields will bring greater benefits to the people of both countries.
Now, the Blue House says Tuesday's two meetings served as an opportunity for the two countries to reaffirm their commitment to further develop their strategic cooperative partnership, building on Monday's summit between Presidents Yi and Xi Jinping.
So, Eugene, we know Wednesday, tomorrow, marks President Yi's final day over in China. What's on his schedule and what should we be watching for?
Right. So, Tommy, as you know, Shanghai is widely known as the economic and financial hub of China. With that being said, President Yi will begin Wednesday by attending the South Korea-China Venture Startup Summit, meeting with young entrepreneurs from both countries, including in areas such as content, infrastructure, energy, and healthcare. Now, discussions are likely to focus on how ventures and startups can serve as new engines of cooperation between the two countries. After that, the president will move on to his final official engagement in China, that is visiting the Korean provisional government in Shanghai.
President Yi's visit will mark the 150th anniversary of the birth of independence activist Kim Gu and the 100th anniversary of the establishment of the provisional government in Shanghai, honoring the sacrifices of independence fighters and commemorating Korea and China's shared history to restore national sovereignty.
The late Kim Gu was a founder of the provisional government and later even served as its head. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Tommy.
All right, Eugene, that was our Song Yujin live from Shanghai. Now, staying in China, First Lady Kim Hae-kyung visited the Korean International School in Beijing today to meet some of the students there. She thanked their parents as well as the faculty for their dedication to nurturing the future generations. And asked for continued support to nurture them as global talents based on their identity as Koreans. She met 12th graders who will soon graduate, saying they are the lamps whose dreams and passions serve to shine the future of Korea and China. She also treated them to fried chicken as a congratulations for graduating. The school was founded in 1998 to educate young Koreans living in China, from kindergartners to high school students. China has imposed an immediate ban on exports to China of what are called dual-use goods, products, software, and technologies with legitimate civilian applications that can also be adapted for military use. This comes following remarks made by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, suggesting possible military involvement in a Taiwan contingency. China's Ministry of Commerce, through its official website on Tuesday, said that the measure prohibits all dual-use items that could enhance Japan's military capabilities, effective immediately. The ministry also warned that third parties transferring Chinese origin dual-use goods to Japan in violation of the ban will face legal consequences, signaling a so-called secondary boycott. Deposed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro pleaded not guilty to 4 charges in a U.S. federal court on Monday, with each carrying a potential life sentence. Cha Yong-kyung has the latest.
Deposed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro pleaded not guilty to 4 charges leveled by the U.S., including narco-terrorism, drug trafficking, and weapons offenses, all of which could result in life sentences. Maduro entered the plea in a federal court in Manhattan, just days after being captured by U.S. Special Forces in an operation ordered by U.S. President Donald Trump. The arraignment lasted less than 30 minutes, with the judge confirming Maduro's identity and that he understood the 4 charges against him. During the hearing, Maduro insisted he remains Venezuela's legitimate president, calling his capture illegal and describing himself as a prisoner of war. The case quickly spilled onto the international stage. At an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council on Monday, the U.S. rejected accusations of aggression against Venezuela, arguing the operation was an act of law enforcement tied to long-standing criminal charges.
As Secretary Rubio has said, there is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades.
However, Colombia, which requested the meeting, condemned the U.S. operation as a clear violation of Venezuela's sovereignty, political independence, and territorial integrity.
There is no justification whatsoever under any circumstances for the unilateral use of force to commit an act of aggression. Such action constitutes a violation of international law and the United Nations Charter.
Russia also accused Washington of abducting Venezuela's elected leader and demanded Maduro's immediate release, with Moscow's ambassador saying the United States had breached international law. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said he thinks U.S. oil companies could restart and expand operations in Venezuela in under 18 months. In an interview with NBC News on Monday, he noted that it might even take less time, though it would require significant investment. Trump explained that oil companies would cover the costs up front and later be repaid by the U.S. government or through profits, adding that having a Venezuela that's an oil producer is good for the United States because it keeps the price of oil down. The Trump administration has repeatedly said that U.S. oil companies are eager to return to Venezuela, almost 20 years after the country nationalized oil assets worth billions of dollars. Cha Yong-kyung, Arirang News.
And with Washington declaring it now runs Venezuela, concerns are growing over the U.S. president's latest remarks on claiming Greenland. Oh Soo-young has more.
European leaders are issuing warnings against any U.S. maneuvers to claim Greenland. Following President Donald Trump's surprise military operation that gained control of Venezuela, the U.S. leader on Sunday reissued a statement from last year that Washington absolutely needs Greenland, which is currently part of Denmark, a NATO ally. Greenland is strategically positioned between Europe and North America and holds significant mineral reserves, making it a crucial site that could enhance America's military and economic security. The Danish Prime Minister voiced her concerns, saying the US has no right to annex Greenland.
I believe the American president should be taken seriously when he says that he wants Greenland. But I also want to make it clear that if the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops. That includes NATO, and thus the security provided since the end of World War II.
She still noted that Denmark has always been a good ally of the US and wishes to remain so. The leaders of Norway and Finland also clearly stated that Greenland is Danish territory. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, while cautiously avoiding judgment on America's capture of Maduro, made clear that Greenland should not be subjugated. Trump has previously said he would not rule out the use of military or economic coercion to gain control over the island. Now that his administration claims to run Venezuela after capturing its leader Nicolas Maduro, his remarks on Greenland are stirring more alarm. The US leader has also hinted he may close in on Colombia and even Mexico. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
It was yet another bullish day for South Korean shares on Tuesday, with the benchmark KOSPI breaking the 4,500 mark for the very first time. Now hopes are high that the 5,000 mark could be realized within the first quarter of the new year. Our Park Kwon-woo reports.
South Korea's benchmark KOSPI surpassed the 4,500-point mark for the first time in history on Tuesday. The index has posted record highs for 3 consecutive trading sessions after breaking the 4,300 mark on Friday and climbing past 4,400 on Monday, a gain of roughly 100 points each day. Earlier on Tuesday, the KOSPI opened down more than 0.25% from the previous close, but later reversed course and moved higher. The market closed at over 4,525, up by more than 1.5% from the previous trading day, while the tech-heavy Kosdaq finished at nearly 956, down 0.16%. Among the heavyweight stocks, SK Hynix turned higher during intraday trading, providing upward pressure on the broader index. Shares of the chipmaker rose sharply, once even briefly reaching 720,000 won, marking an all-time high. Investor attention has been focused on SK Hynix following the company's plans to unveil its next-generation high-bandwidth memory product at CES 2026. Buying momentum also strengthened after reports that SK Hynix CEO Kwang No-jung is set to meet NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. And one expert says that the recent rally, driven by recent strong chip shares, is significant for the market's outlook.
Reaching 4,500 earlier than expected shows that last year's rally has continued into this year. That could act as an important stepping stone toward 5,000. Since the rally has been led by domestic semiconductor stocks, this momentum could continue through the first half of the year.
The same expert added that the KOSPI could even reach the 5,000 mark within the first quarter, especially if major chip makers like Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix continue to post strong earnings. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News.
For the first time in 7 months, South Korea's foreign exchange reserves shrank in December last year as authorities took measures to address the weakening Korean won. Park Jun-han has the details.
South Korea's foreign reserves fell for the first time in 7 months in December last year due to interventions aimed at managing currency volatility. According to the Bank of Korea on Tuesday, the country's foreign reserves in December stood at just over $428 billion, down $2.6 billion from November. This is the largest December foreign reserves decrease since the Asian financial crisis in 1997. Prior to the drop, South Korea's foreign reserves had risen for 6 consecutive months from a near 5-year low of about $404.6 billion in May to $430.66 billion in November. As of late November, South Korea ranked 9th globally in foreign reserves, with China and Japan ranked 1st and 2nd. In December of last year, foreign exchange authorities in Korea issued strong verbal warnings, telling market participants to be mindful that expectations of further depreciation of the won could lead to unfavorable outcomes. Following government efforts to cool the FX market, the $1 exchange rate saw a drop. The $1 exchange rate, which hovered around 1,484 won in late December before the intervention, closed the year at approximately 1,440 won. Park Junan, Arirang News.
The world's biggest tech show, CES 2026, is just one day away from its official opening in Las Vegas. And this year, the spotlight is firmly on AI, not just in software, but in the physical world around us. Our Kim Do-yeon tells us more.
While the show floor is still being prepped, the media frenzy has already begun at CES 2026 in Las Vegas, with industry giants unveiling their visions early. On Sunday night local time, in front of a crowd of 1,800 media and industry insiders, Samsung declared its mission to embed AI into every aspect of daily life.
No company can do what we do. We partner with industry leaders, innovating together to create the best AI experiences and deliver strong user benefits.
This comes as Samsung Electronics has set up an exclusive exhibit, marking the first time the tech giant has stepped away from the main Las Vegas Convention Center to hold its own standalone showcase at Wynn. At the exhibition, the keyword here is companion. Samsung aims to integrate AI into all appliances to ensure they actively assist and entertain users rather than just functioning as tools. For example, with the World Cup coming up this year, Samsung has created an AI audio assistant to mute out just the commentary or the crowd to personalize the game watching experience. Among the hardware highlights is the new micro RGB TV, featuring a revolutionary definition and design that can stand with only minimal support. Beyond home electronics, this year's CES is defined by physical AI intelligence that interacts with the real world. The shift was palpable at NVIDIA's keynote. As the world's most valuable company by market cap, NVIDIA drew thousands to a packed venue as CEO Jensen Huang unveiled Alpamayo.
Today we're announcing Alpamayo, the world's first thinking, reasoning autonomous vehicle AI. Alpamayo is trained end to end, literally from camera in to actuation out.
Huang emphasized that this new agentic capability where AI reasons, plans, and uses tools is being open sourced, effectively giving industries a blueprint to build their own physical AI. This trend extends to robotics as well. Hyundai Motor released its new robot lineups for Boston Dynamics, simultaneously announcing a partnership with Google's DeepMind to jointly develop next-generation humanoid robots and AI controls. Meanwhile, South Korean innovation is dominating the event's accolades. For the third consecutive year, Korea won the most innovation awards. Domestic firms took home around 60% of the some 280 awards given out, and notably about 80% of those winners were small to medium-sized enterprises. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, Las Vegas.
Though the new year of 2026 has begun, South Korea's ruling and main opposition parties are expected to remain locked in a fierce confrontation. After clashing through the end of last year with marathon filibusters, the two sides are now headed for another direct showdown. For more on this, we've invited our political correspondent An Sung-jin here in the studio. Welcome, Sung-jin.
Thanks for having me, Dami.
So, Sung-jin, it seems like the ruling Democratic Party and the main opposition People Power Party have hinted at continuing a confrontation over unresolved issues. What are they exactly?
Right, so what we saw last year was the ruling DP and the main opposition PPP clashing over some unilateral passage of bills, including the legislation to establish a special court for insurrection cases. Now, their dispute on a proposed second comprehensive special prosecutor probe to go over issues from 3 major investigations. Now, those related to insurrection allegations, issues concerning the former First Lady Kim Gon-hee, and the death of Marine Corporal Che, as well as a separate special probe into the Unification Church.
Our first legislative priority of the new year will be the second comprehensive special prosecutor bill and the Unification Church probe.
Meanwhile, the PPP strongly opposed the move, accusing the ruling party of attempting to prolong what it calls a politically motivated insurrection narrative through the upcoming local elections.
We once again strongly demand the swift appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate allegations of collusion between the Unification Church and the political establishment.
Then, Sung-jin, with all this in mind, what can we expect to happen this week?
Right. Well, the DP was aiming to pass both special prosecutor bills on 3 investigations and the Unification Church probe at a plenary session scheduled for this Thursday. But now what we do need to keep in mind is whether the plenary session will actually take place this week. The Legislation and Judiciary Committee is set to have a meeting tomorrow, a day before the scheduled plenary session takes place. Now, to process the special prosecutor bill, it should be introduced at the meeting tomorrow and then referred to a subcommittee for a bill review. Now, after the subcommittee approves it, another full committee meeting must be convened to pass the bill. Now, not only is it difficult to hold these 2 committee meetings on the day before a plenary session, but the Speaker of the National Assembly, Wynn, has yet to decide on whether to convene a plenary session on Thursday, which is why we have political insiders saying it would be physically difficult to put the special prosecutor bill on the agenda. Now, this schedule has been repeatedly adjusted, originally being postponed due to President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to China, as the DP had pledged to avoid handling contentious domestic legislation during that period. However, the DP reversed the decision and is looking to push with the vote this week. Now, further complicating the matters is a leadership vacuum within the DP following the resignation of former floor leader Kim Byung-gi, as some have argued that the party should wait until a new floor leader is elected.
Then, Sung-jin, when is the election for the new leader to take place? And remind us, who are the candidates?
Right, great question, Dami. So it has been confirmed that it will be a 4-way race after candidate registration closed last night. Though what's interesting is that there is no clear front-runner that has been emerged. Now, we have 4 3-term lawmakers, Chun Sung-jun, Park Jung, Baek Hae-ryun, and Han Byung-do, that will be seeking the position. Now, the 4 candidates have emphasized their commitment to stabilizing party turmoil and to securing victory in the upcoming general election. They also pledged to tackle head-on insurrection-related matters and advance reform legislation. The election of the new floor leader will be based on a weighted vote, with 20% reflecting ballots from registered party members and 80% from National Assembly representatives. Now, voting will take place over 2 days starting on January 10th, with the result to be announced on January 11th. So hopefully we can cover it in studio next week as well.
Sung-jin, I'm sure we'll be looking forward to it. Thanks for coming in tonight.
My pleasure as always, Tommy.
Please get ready for some changing weather conditions this week. Seoul woke up to a quick blast of cold air this morning, with temperatures dipping to -7 degrees Celsius. However, the temperature went back up during the day, with highs in Seoul reaching 4 degrees. With colder air moving in, Seoul's temperature could plunge to -9 degrees on Thursday. Dry conditions are continuing around parts of the capital area and eastern parts of the country. Fire safety is especially important as strong winds are blowing in these areas. Chuncheon will start off at -4 degrees tomorrow morning, with Busan at 2 degrees. Daily highs will rise up to 2 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon, 7 degrees in Gwangju, Daegu, and Gyeongju. Looking ahead, rain or snow is expected in central areas from Friday night and will spread to much of the country on Saturday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.